This presentation is on mining, the foundation of the cryptocurrency economy. Our agenda for this presentation is below. We're going to talk about different technology options, how to build equipment, things to consider, a little bit about the software needed, economics, future opportunities for those involved in mining, and a few conclusions. About me, my name is John Cannon. I'm not a financial planner nor an accountant. I do not give investment advice. I'm an engineer and entrepreneur, and I own a mining company that offers mining to everyone. So what is mining? Mining is the service or the task performed by a worldwide network of computers that hold all the data for a particular blockchain. Every so often, every couple minutes, new transactions are confirmed in a new block. Each mining rig has a complete list of all of the approved transactions. So how this works is each mining rig tries to compute the hash for the next block of transactions. And I'll show you what that hash is in just a moment. The owners of these computers are called miners, and they are rewarded for all their work with the issuing of new coins. So here's an example of a simple blockchain. It starts with the previous block's hash, which I'm going to ignore for a little bit. And then we see transactions. Abel sends Bitcoin to Bob, Carol sends some to David, Evan sends a little bit to Frank. And then there's a block of data called a nonce. A nonce is just a filler, and we'll show you the role the nonce plays in just a moment. Then all that data is collected from the previous hash to the end of the nonce, and it's fed into a hash generator, and this hash comes out that starts with A69FC and so on. That hash represents the data that was in that block. So what we have to do for mining, the quote-unquote problem that everyone talks about with miners that has to be solved, is we need to fill in that nonce with data that will generate a hash that starts with 18 zeros. So I'm going to take my first guess. I see the nonce of A through P, all capitalized, is not correct. I'm going to change the P from an uppercase P to a lowercase p. And you see the hash then changed. If I go back, this is the uppercase P, then I go forward, there's the lowercase p. So a small change in the data made a significant change in the hash. So now I have to keep guessing at what the nonce would be to generate that hash that starts with all zeros. So my next guess is going to be to try and place a lowercase o in. And sure enough, it changed the hash, but not to the correct value. So I keep doing this until I come up with a nonce that generates a hash with a bunch of leading zeros. And here it is. Looks like my nonce in this dummy example was a bunch of lowercase x's. So at this point, this particular mining rig would declare, I've found the correct solution, and be rewarded for that work that's done. In the case of Bitcoin, that reward is 12.5 Bitcoin. Here's a chain of blocks, thus the blockchain. Here we have that block that I just showed you, and then the hash from that is put into the previous hash of the next block, and then we record more transactions. George sends some Bitcoin to Helen, Ivan to John, Kevin to Larry, and so on. And the process repeats every couple of minutes. So the blockchain is just a database. It's accessible to anyone worldwide, and it's open and viewable. By traditional database technology, it is incredibly inefficient. But the benefit you get is it's incredibly secure. If someone wanted to change one of those transactions, you'd have to change the transaction, find the correct nonce that generates the proper hash, update that block, and then all subsequent blocks that have come after it, and get all that done before all the other computers worldwide update the next block. It's impossible. So I said there was a reward. You're rewarded for the work that you do, and the reward is sent to the miner's address. You can think of this as your bank account, where the bank routing number and all that information is stored all in one number. There are a number of technology options available for mining. The two most significant, if you're going to do your own mining, are ASIC mining rigs and GPU-based mining rigs. The ASICs are very, very fast and designed for a specific coin and a specific application. If there's a change in the algorithm, they become obsolete almost immediately. And there are very few vendors, and the market is controlled by those vendors who are mostly from China. The GPU mining rigs, however, can be reprogrammed to mine different coins. If a more profitable coin becomes available, then the miners can switch to mine that coin. It's very flexible. There's lots of competition on vendors, and at the end of the day, if you want to get out of mining, you can sell your equipment to gamers who still use those video cards. Here's some example of different mining rigs. The S9 Antminer from Bitmain is a very popular mining rig for Bitcoin. You can see the price down here. It's a little shy of $8,000. It is very, very specific. It's the latest generation, and this is one of the mining rigs that's used to mine Bitcoin right now. To the right of it is a GPU mining rig. It can be used to mine a number of different cryptocurrencies and costs about $4,400. Remember, I talked to you about the ASIC mining rigs are not very flexible. So when new technology comes out, or if there's a change in the algorithm, the old mining rigs are not very useful whatsoever. Here's an example of a previous generation, the S7 mining rig, which once upon a time cost quite a bit more than $79. You can now get for $79. Another option is cloud mining. With cloud mining, you're essentially renting capability from someone else. They have the equipment, they own the equipment. You're using their equipment to your benefit. You sign a contract with them. Typical is 2 years. And the reality is, if all the variables are constant, which of course they never are, but you could expect a return of 0.5% to 2%. When you get dips in the price, as is common every day with cryptocurrency, you can expect your profits to be wiped out. These services are very, very easy to get up and get running. You just go to a website and give them your credit card and you're participating. But historically, the profits just don't exist. And some mining services are not very reputable at all. Some are multi-level marketing, where you recruit new miners and you get revenue from their signing up. BitConnect was a not so reputable cloud mining service, and bad things happened to that, and the owner was arrested. If you're going to buy equipment, be careful of the vendors. Use good, reputable vendors. There are a lot of knockoff equipment out there. Much of that equipment is not designed to handle the rigors of mining, and many of these devices will fail after a brief time of running mining. And yes, it might have been a less expensive upfront purchase, but it won't last you very long. Currently, most of the information on how to do mining is available on YouTube. You can pretty much go to YouTube and see a video on how to do mining. And they'll have lots of pictures and tell you lots of really, really good things to go do. Be careful. Make sure that the person who's recording that video actually knows what they're talking about. I've seen a number of these videos that suggest enhancements to a system. Overclocking is a common enhancement where you can run the equipment at 110% of what it was designed for, therefore you will produce 10% more money. The reality is, if it was designed to work at 110% clock speed, the engineers would have spec'd it at that. So quite often some of these enhancements generate errors, system errors, or hardware errors that the software might not even be aware of. So you could be running along, spinning your wheels, literally, where you're not generating the reward that you would expect to get by doing this kind of running this kind of service. You're essentially just wasting electricity. Speaking of electricity, it's one of the most important resources to control. The demands for electricity for running the rig and air conditioning can vary tremendously based temperature, humidity, airflow. You need to make sure you have enough, and be aware that utility companies can have surcharges for a whole number of different things. You also need to be considerate of your networking infrastructure. So the mining rig that comes up with the solution first is the one who gets the reward, but you also have to be able to report it. So you need high-speed internet, you need a backup plan for outages. Mining pools are a great service that you can sign up for, and it helps eliminate a lot of the uncertainty and the variability of the reward. If you join a pool, there could be thousands of other miners all working on the same pool, and it allows you to pretty accurately predict what your rewards will be. You need to make sure you're using a good pool service. For instance, if you double your hashing power, your reward should double. Not all mining pools recognize that doubling of service. Some have caps, some have throttles, and there's a number of different things to look out for. The pool fees, processing fees, is another variable. They can range from less than 1% to nearly as high as 10%. There's some very, very good pools out there with very low mining fees. So just because they have a high fee does not mean that they're the best service also. Here's some examples, some pictures of GPU mining rigs on the top and the motherboard in the bottom left. The economics of mining is a really important thing to understand. I believe that miners must be profitable. If they're not, they will stop. So the rewards for mining have to cover the ongoing operating costs, which is primarily electricity, with a reasonable rate of return on the investment of the equipment. If a miner is not profitable mining a particular coin, they'll move to another coin that is profitable or at least promising. And if you look at mining from a long-term perspective, a 5-year perspective in the crypto world, that's a long time. Mining can be much more profitable than investing. A service to have a look at is What to Mine. This website allows you to put in what-if analysis if you have a particular kind of GPU, how many you have, and it will recommend a number of different coins that you can go mine profitably. So set your expectations. If you're going to get into mining, be careful. There's a number of steep learning curves, and you should give yourself 3 to 6 months to work out all the kinks. Things to overcome are the mining software, the thermodynamics of the room where you have your mining rig, and how to handle troubleshooting errors when error conditions arise. There's some additional opportunities for miners. As we go forward, blockchain is a very, very valuable technology for a number of companies. Things like product distribution, where you're tracking everything from food to chemicals, are going to be put on blockchain databases, healthcare, certifications, voting. All of these are very interesting opportunities where miners could point their resources to a particular application and generate revenue for that work as well. Password recovery service is kind of interesting. The technology used to generate these hashes is the same hardware used to break passwords. If somebody forgot their password to an important document, corporate IT departments use this. And then at the end of the day, if you want to get out of this particular opportunity, you can always sell your hardware to gamers. So a number of conclusions. Mining can be a very profitable activity or very expensive, depending on how you do it. If you're going to have more than 3 mining rigs, you really require infrastructure that you would need to be in a data center. If you try and do this in your basement or at home, you'll quickly outgrow the electrical and the air conditioning capabilities that you'll find in most homes. And we recommend you use a mining service. If anyone has any questions on mining or wants to continue the conversation, I can be reached at john@simplydatacenters.com, and we welcome everyone to visit our website at simplydatacenters.com.